There will be no spoilers in this video out of respect for those stuck in the queue. So is dungeon experience buffed to like super crazy good awesome levels so now we can all leave Bozja behind and burn the cat daddies? I mean, I've heard that a few times now. After all though, about 12 hours ago the developers announced with patch 6.0.1 that they were going to be buffing dungeon experience, and they definitely did for the record, and I want to find out how much. My method that I used for this data is I leveled paladin all the way up from 81 to 90, going through at least one dungeon run of the highest level dungeon per level. So at level 81, I obviously went to the 81 dungeon. At 82, I'd still go to the 81 dungeon just to check. So on and so forth, you really get what I mean. I'm not going to belabor that. Then I took all of the experience point gains I made and their calculated bonuses and like the food, the 15% squadron manual buff, rested experience buffs, and the works, and I slammed all this data into a spreadsheet as I was legit dozing and nodding off because what is sleep anymore doing this and working full time? I don't even know what my life is anymore. But from this sheet, I did some honestly very basic calculations, but did draw some informative conclusions from them. So this video is my take on leveling and my recommendations for what we see now post dungeon experience buff. And now I've not only done it, but I've like actually done the math. I've actually leveled everything, and I'm down to like my last 4 jobs to level, which I'm expecting I'm going to get done in the next 2 days or so. But I've mathed it out and I'm really confident with what I present here. Now, because people are missing me saying it, I'm making sure to try and say it more often. So anyhow, if this video helps you guys at all, or you appreciate it, or you find it entertaining, or whatever in any way, I would super appreciate if you lobbed a thick cat daddy on that like button and cat daddy that subscribe button. You all asked for that. So everyone wanted my takeaway. My strong, mathematically backed argument is to avoid dungeons in general for any role, any job, any queue, any pre-made or not pre-made until level 87. The dungeons simply take too long, when compared to the skirmish spam, of course. This is in part because skirmishes do not scale to your level. Instead, they are pretty direct injection of 330k experience, whereas the dungeons do scale, and so eventually with the larger maximum experience bars of experience that you need, the dungeons do eventually get to the point where they start to really outpace it. I want to talk about how, especially like when you add up external factors outside of your control, especially because I know a lot of people are going to be doing this solo because it's really hard to find other people that are like, yeah, I want to level up every single one of the like literally 19 jobs in 14. Yeah, let's do it. Most people look at you like you're crazy. I speak from experience on that one. But hey, you know what? I love it. I like playing my variety of characters, so I love it. But most people are going to think you're absolutely crazy. So speaking about it, a lot of us are going to be pugging it. And so when you're talking about external factors, maybe your healer in your pugged group just doesn't want to do damage, which is fair. That's all right. No problem. You pugged it, so you get what you get. You get what you deserve, and Yoshi P pays their sub now. You don't pay my sub. But Yoshi P, what would he think of this? In terms of external factors, especially when you add in sitting around in queue times, it adds up and just results in a very, very bad result. Unless you are literally multitasking something else that requires your attention more, in which case you're not like talking about like level optimization, in which case I digress. You know what I mean. You can basically really see the difference between dungeons and skirmish spam slowly start to come together though, and closer after level 87. This is in spite of all of those external factors because I did pug a lot of these. There were a few times that I did pre-mates, which definitely went a lot better. But this kind of a difference collapsing, the difference between the skirmishes and dungeon spam, this is why I'm really making this recommendation that I'm making here. Note, my dungeon duration still doesn't include the queues, however. But speaking of that, level 87 finally brings the numbers close enough together that if you have a pre-made that is capable of pushing around 17 to 18 minute long runs, that it can easily outdo skirmish spam, or rather not be completely absolutely lambasted by skirmish spam. It's still gonna fall short. Like, I still would consider 3 runs at 17 to 18 minutes longer than skirmish spam, but it's gonna be a more viable option where you're not going to be like super far behind. Like level 81, I cannot recommend that dungeon over skirmishes in good faith to you at all. But note that I'm talking about a pre-made capable of pushing 17 to 18 minute long runs. That means no queues, no frills, no cure 1 spamming healers for free cure procs. That means wall-to-wall hard pulling with a healer slapping down a ton of DPS and the DPS on their game. If you don't have that at 87 or 88, continue to skirmish spam, because like if you start getting into the like the 20 to 22 to maybe even 25-minute runs, which I did have even in some of my data, continue to skirmish spam if you can't meet that condition, or like if you have like 10-minute queues. Now level 88 is probably, if I'm being quite honest with everyone, the worst level of the bunch, in which case I would invite people to consider Wondrous Tales or MSQ Roulette at this point. Both took me a significantly longer time to complete than just skirmish spam, but if you can like feel absolutely compelled to complete these forms of content in some way, or need a Bozja break, here is where I'd put them at level 88. Now level 89 is where the dungeon experience, in my experience, really actually did do great. Level 89 in Bozja, I've leveled 89 to 90 a few times, and I get like 38 minutes to like 44 minutes-ish. But remember, that is me pulling all the stunts and essences and being familiar with the map and being like, okay, I can stand in this, oh my god, like I have aggro, okay, I'm gonna hit the behemoth so that the behemoth wails me, and then I just start at like the base and respawn. Like that's pulling all the stunts, which is pretty good. I mean, the capstone level of your character being done in still under 45 minutes is quite good. But on the flip side, doing 2 runs of the 89 dungeon with minimal rested experience, I still had to end up going back to Bozja to wrap it up. And so was I completely able to escape Bozja even when I did do those? No. But I should actually clarify with that. I would absolutely not queue for a third 89 dungeon run unless you're doing some other goal, like maybe trying to like collect a particular piece of loot. Not saying what it is, like spoilers. But in that case, though, you're not trying to level optimally at that point. Like for me, like I have 4 more jobs to do. Like I don't want to waste my time in like a third 89 dungeon run. I want to be moving on to the next one ASAP. But that, which is, for the record, more than fine if you want to do that. But the goal of this video is really to recommend optimal things, in which case I would not run it a third time. I'd go to Bozja to wrap up it. Now people might ask about when I have these little fractions of dungeon runs left to do that don't fit nicely into the level. As you can see clearly from the spreadsheet data, that's a thing. So I have really 3 decent options in my mind. First up is, and you probably guessed it, it is Back to the Land of the Cat Daddies, which is an unlimited spring of a ton of experience. Secondly up is limited spring of experience, but still very good experience, which is the Pixie Beast Tribe. They give 3 quests for 330k experience that you can wedge into those nooks and crannies wherever. Thirdly is going to be Fates, but buyer beware big time. Even when I went to really give this an earnest shot today before I like blurted out about Fates, some of these Fates scaling was cranked through the roof, taking like 5 minutes to down a boss, and that was with like a bunch of people outside of the party. I was like in a queue on my Dragoon, and that wasn't a special boss either, so buyer beware. And it's like 220k experience when it was all said and done, and yuck. Now people might ask, would I recommend anything else? Not really, due to roulette leveling can put you in like Copperbell Mines, and especially with some sprouts it can take upwards of like half an hour depending on how unlucky you are. I mean, a lot of people are a lot more impatient than me, and so I wait around and I try and help where I can, and so sometimes those have really cranked up the timer. And so I don't really like going into leveling roulette unless I can make that time commitment, because that's not fair to anyone. So not really. Anyhow, this is my take on leveling and my recommendations, and now I've not only done it and down to like the last 4 jobs to level, but now I've mathed it out, and so I'm really confident with what I'm presenting here as a solid quick route. Anyhow, that's all for this video. Take care everyone, and happy ENDWALKER, and good luck with the queues if you're still stuck in them. Oh my god. Yeah, daddy, that subscribe button.